All right, welcome. Let's wait for people to come in here, and I'll wait a couple of minutes as we start, and hopefully my audio is working. So those of you who are watching this live, let me know if my audio is working. Last time it didn't, and I spent 30 minutes babbling without paying any attention to the fact that I had no audio. So we'll wait for some people to get in here. I am Professor Josh Matthews, your guide to the movies, your Yoda to your Luke Skywalker. You're interested in watching movies? I will help you on your journey forward, or I will be one of your helpers. And follow me on letterboxd.com, letterbox with a D. People will continue to follow me there. I really appreciate that. I write 10 to 15 minute reviews. I mean, it takes me 10 to 15 minutes to do my write-ups. So there's some errors usually, and they're just slapdash, but maybe they can be helpful to you. And they're my, errant thoughts on whatever I'm watching. Letterboxd.com. Sign up for my newsletter. My newsletter, which I haven't put out in a while because I've been busy doing other things, but I should put out my newsletter more frequently, showing you all the videos I'm making. Hello, Brian. Thank you. Yes, the audio's on. Okay, great. Yeah, let me know if my audio drops. Last time I had an audio problem, and I'm blaming it on Windows Update. I just can't imagine what in the world happened. And I'm not tech deficient. I'm pretty good at tech. I'm better than average. I'm not a genius, but better than average. Okay, so in this streaming video, what we do is we talk about what to watch in this month. And the way we do that is what helps me is to pare down the choices, because there's an infinite now amount of choices. Every movie ever made is now available online. What do you watch when you go sit down and pull up Netflix or Amazon, whatever you look at? So what I do is I look at what's leaving these streaming services, and then I tell you what I think is pretty good as far as what's leaving the streaming services, including one of my favorites, Criterion Channel, which they do not pay me. I just like them. So Criterion Channel, I'll tell you what's leaving there. I'll tell you what's leaving Netflix. And anything else goes. So you ask questions. Oh, we'll look at the summer movies as well, at least the June movies coming out, which looks a little bleak, but we'll see if any of them are good or not. Hello to people coming in here. Thank you for coming in. Let me turn this on then. We are going to go through some of these summer movies. There I am in double. So what's leaving these services? Now, again, this is how I pare down what to watch. So I was just told the other day, in fact, yesterday, by one of my former students, and this he's probably watching this, 24 years old. I watched Twin Peaks. What do you think about that? I said, I've never seen Twin Peaks. Okay, so it's leaving Netflix, which I found interesting. And those of you who are David Lynch fans, who like a couple Lynch movies, here you go. I'm always dubious about what was on TV circa 1991. I was there. I was alive. I thought TV at that time was pretty terrible, especially compared to what came 10 years later. But I am told that Twin Peaks is worth watching. So I might do that at some point, especially if I ever, once again, never sure if I will again. It feels like you never will. But international travel, a movie like this is good if you're on a plane somewhere, if you have the opportunity to go somewhere. So Twin Peaks. I've also never seen Hannibal. Serial killer movies aren't my thing, or serial killer shows, but some of you may have a word to say about that in the comments. But, okay, so here's what I recommend watching from Netflix. Now, if you haven't seen Searching for Bobby Fischer, I like this movie. It came out in the early 1990s. It's about a chess prodigy in America, Josh Waitzkin, who actually learned chess from. Now, I don't know him, but he had a chess program called Chess Master, and actually I learned chess. I'm not very good at it, but then I gave that to my kids, and one of my kids is actually quite good at chess, and they've learned a lot from that. And thus you see Josh Waitzkin as a kid, and I think this is based on his dad's memoir of having a child prodigy. If I remember correctly, Josh Waitzkin, 7 or 8 years old, becomes a international master. Maybe he's a little bit older than that, but it's a movie about putting kids into sports and pressuring kids into learning and becoming awesome at something when they're only 8 years old or so. So it's a pretty good movie. It has a lot of good actors in it. And I'm sure some of you know this movie, right? Yeah, I haven't watched Twin Peaks. I know. You know, we all have to have something we haven't seen. Searching for Bobby Fischer, that's a good family movie as well, particularly for older children. Portlandia, actually I liked the first couple of seasons. I can't even imagine what they have done in the last 6 or 7 seasons. That what other material is there besides what's in the first couple of seasons? But I did appreciate that TV show, showcasing the wackiness of Northwest America, Oregon, Portland, of course. Just to go through this real quickly, there's a bunch of these I'm going to skip over. I should watch A Bridge Too Far with my kids. They're interested in that material. World War II movie from the 1970s, I think. Enter the Dragon, I'm pretty sure that's the Bruce Lee movie. Fiddler on the Roof, Scarface, if you like cocaine bosses, played by Al Pacino. If the Twilight Zone is leaving, it's worth watching select episodes from that. You'd find the 5 best. If you're young, and you like, say, Black Mirror, you should go watch like the 5 best Twilight Zone episodes because they hold up. I don't even remember what they are. To Serve Man is memorable because it's so goofy, but there's a bunch of them that are good, and a lot of them aren't that great, but it's quite an interesting series, some of which holds up. Yeah, there's a bunch of them here. I don't love, but you know, my wife loves The Land Before Time. Yeah. Let's get into Criterion Channel, which, let me see what else is going on. Okay, Criterion. Oh no. Criterion Channel is very interesting this month, and those of you who have not signed up for it, I don't even know what the prices are anymore. Are they $80, $90, $100 for a year? I always find it worthwhile if, you know, you can watch 2 to 3 movies on the channel a year. So Criterion always tells you, what I like about it is always tells you, and Netflix I don't think does this. Let me get this up here. What is leaving? And they always have this category. What is leaving June 30th? There we go. So what's leaving June 30th? And I wish Amazon and Netflix and everything else had these categories, Hulu, but they don't. So it looks to me, first of all, like, and if you have a family, this is useful, the Marx Brothers movies are leaving. All of them apparently were on the Criterion Channel. The one, of course, I recommend is Duck Soup, which I think is fabulous, especially the last 30 minutes of it. But if you are, like me, involved in college at all, you should watch Horse Feathers as it's 1932, early college movie depicting what universities were like in the United States. And this, of course, is satire making fun of universities, what they were like. And it's amazing how massively popular football was then, and American football, and how much it deserves to be made fun of, and it is by the Marx Brothers here in Horse Feathers. So actually, you can't see it, but I have a poster of this movie somewhere over there on my wall. I think it's pretty good overall. And if I scrolled all the way down, I think we'd see more Marx Brothers movies, so I'll point them out. They're interesting movies because the Marx Brothers were as you know, a vaudeville troupe, so involved in theater, stagecraft, and then they moved to film. But you get this sort of vaudevillian variety show in their movies, and their movies aren't coherent in the sense of a uniform story very often. Maybe Duck Soup is the most uniform, but that's what makes them interesting as curiosities and as possibilities for people making movies in the futures. You know, maybe you don't have to have a uniform story. You can have a variety of scenes that don't interlock, right? Or sometimes take a break and have Harpo Marx play the harp, which is what they do occasionally in a Marx Brothers movie. I'm sure some of you have seen John Carpenter's The Thing, classic science fiction horror movie from the 1980s, but this is a remake of a Howard Hawks, I think 1940s movie called The Thing from Another World, based on a short story called Who Goes There by John Campbell. And in my science fiction class, I usually use Who Goes There. It's about these humans who find in Antarctica some ancient, mysterious spacecraft with a frozen alien on it. How does this work? The alien thaws, and I won't tell you any more than that. But John Carpenter's The Thing is probably his best movie, or one of them. A lot of people love it. It does have gory creature effects in it. worth watching. It's Scary Wilford Brimley, if you know who that is in the movie. There's a lot of these I haven't seen, so as I scroll down here, I'll tell you what I'm going to watch as well. And I'm looking at these going, oh, this is interesting, like Duck, You Sucker. I've not seen that. Sergio Leone's Western. Days of Heaven, I've covered that on the channel. It's a Terrence Malick movie, his second movie. And I think if you're going to get into a Terrence Malick, I'll say this like probably the 5th time on the channel I've said this. If you're going to get into Malick, this is the one that probably to start with because it's the most coherent story. You get into his other movies, and the stories are hard to pick out. The plots, the plot dominates more in Days of Heaven. And it's a beautiful movie. It's only going to cost you 90 minutes of your time. If you like it, go further into Malick for sure. And see my video on the channel. I haven't seen this PTA movie. So those of you who have seen it, let me know. Okay. Shaft, I think I've seen that, but I can't remember it. The Lady Killers I highly recommend. It's one of my favorite movies. I recommend this to everybody. Old and Young, it's fun, it's delightful, it's well acted. It has Alec Guinness as a robber, or maybe a killer of a grandma figure. It's a very interesting British humor movie that was remade by the Coen brothers unsuccessfully, in my opinion. So The Lady Killers I really love. There's a video of that on the channel. That Dark City movie there looks interesting. I'm going to add that. Charlton Heston and Noir. The Mission. Okay, so I love movies about early colonial America, whether it's North or South America, the Caribbean, or Central America. Because, people ask me this question, what is your actual job? I actually teach college. I'm a literature professor. I even hate to say the word professor. It's a little pretentious, but I teach college. And actually, my degree is in early American literature. So I've read enough to be dangerous about the historical period as well as the literature of this. And this is early Spanish colonization, I think, in Brazil. It's been a while since I've seen it, but The Mission is a pretty good movie with Robert De Niro or Jeremy Irons as the Jesuit priest. Robert De Niro plays a conquistador. Pretty good movie overall. I just watched another movie about early colonial America, which I put on Letterboxd, Black Robe. Another movie about Jesuits going in and missionizing the Indians and the Native Americans, and I'm going to do a video on that one too. So those are probably still the 2 go-to movies for early colonial American French Jesuit stuff. Night at the Opera, a pretty good Marx Brothers movie. Patton. Now everybody's got to watch Patton, and that's great. It just had Memorial Day in the United States, so that should have watched that yesterday or watched it on the 4th of July. But it's a complicated movie about a great American hero who's lost, forgotten, ignored, denied his rightful place in the military hierarchy. Maybe, and this is conspiracy theory land, maybe was assassinated. But George C. Scott plays this character wonderfully. I believe, if I remember correctly, Patton was co-written by, was it Coppola? I wanted to say Kubrick, but it's Coppola, I'm pretty sure. So that's really interesting too. And I have a video of Patton on my channel, which always gets people coming to it and getting a little upset that I missed some historical detail or that I didn't praise Patton enough. There's a lot of Patton lovers in the world. So I really love the movie. I watched it many times over my lifespan. There's Duck Soup. And you can see already, Criterion Channel is just full of stuff. That's what I like about it. I can just go through here and go, I've seen all these movies. They're really good. And for you young people out there, these are the classics. I mean, to have Patton opens, as many of you know, with this great monologue. The backdrop is a humongous American flag. You can even see the picture here. And the monologue is just amazing. And what can you do with cinema? Sorry for having it pop up there, but what can you do with cinema? I mean, these older movies show you what's possible. And of course, you can do this with YouTube and TikTok and Instagram, whatever you're doing with video making. I mean, there's so many possibilities that older movies contain in them that people aren't doing or using today. So Patton's opening is a classic, as everybody, I think most people know that who are my age or older. I like David Mamet, but I didn't love this movie, House of Games. Of course, a famous playwright, screenwriter, director. You know, he's made some very good movies, in my opinion. For a lot of people love House of Games. I didn't, but it's not. That doesn't mean it's not worth pursuing. So you might try it. I have never seen McCabe and Mrs. Miller. I've had it on my list for 20 years. Probably I'll watch it this week because I love westerns and I want to see it. Isn't that strange? This is another movie I've never seen before. There's a few of those like that, but McCabe and Mrs. Miller. And there's the end. These are more Marx Brothers movies down here. I forget the contents of those. So anybody remember what's your favorite Marx Brothers movie if you've watched them? That's probably something good to put in the chat. All right. And last in our little venture here through what's coming out in June, what to watch. I don't know if you saw A Quiet Place Part 2. It's a big hit. Very unusual movie because the director, John Krasinski of the TV show The Office, comes onto the screen at the very beginning, before I think even the movie studio comes up, and he thanks the audience for attending the movie. Boy, when has that happened in movie history? I know it's happened before, like a Walt Disney special, but I can't think of the last time I've seen that. And he talks to the camera. He's talking to you. So that was very striking. That movie turned out to be okay. It's a good popcorn thriller, as I said in my review. I have a video review on Quiet Place 2, but overall, it's just, an imitation of the original. And in sequels, I'm always looking for something new, something that develops things, something different. And the classic is Godfather to Godfather Part 2. Godfather Part 2 is very elaborate, very different in a lot of ways. Same thing with Empire Strikes Back. So those two movies set the standard for sequels, or big budget sequels. And from thereafter, you got to follow on those footsteps, or I can claim that you are doing a cash grab, which I think is possible to say about Quiet Place Part 2, because it's more of the same. And, not bad movies at all. They're watchable. There's some good technical stuff in Quiet Place Part 2 for sure. Some of his transitions are fabulous, I thought. And the sound design. Now, here's the June movies, and I don't know if this has changed or not. This is probably up to date. And I'm looking at them going, I don't know what I would spend money on. I know people will go to the Pixar movie on June 18th. And probably a lot of people are going to the Fast and Furious movie. And what else can they do? The trailer says there's flying cars. They're going to fly their hot rods this time. Other than that, I'm looking at this going, oh man, this does not look good. I think we're still in the coronavirus territory where movie studios are hesitant to release anything still. They want to see what business they can get. I'm not sure if people are coming back to theaters. And my guess is, given the success of The Quiet Place this weekend, at least in the United States, we'll get some movies coming back, moved up. I am a sucker for Liam Neeson fare. I just think they're ridiculous, unintentionally funny. At least the good ones are unintentionally funny. How can you pass up this? I mean, I've even watched the Ice Road Truckers TV show, so clearly this is a ripoff. Ice Road on Netflix. I don't know if I'll review it for the channel, but it looks amusing to say the least. It can't be. If it's not over the top ridiculous, it's failed, in my opinion. So, anything else here that looks okay to you? I went through all these and I wasn't sure. There's Infinite, which has Mark Wahlberg. Could be okay, but you've got to subscribe to Paramount Plus. How many subscription services are we going to tolerate these days? So anyway, that's my quick run through. Probably July is better, though I'm not entirely sure. I haven't really looked hard at July, but it may be more of the same, sort of big budget, generic fare. Some of which may be fun, but most of which may be forgettable. Who knows, though? Hopefully it's all great. That's always what I hope for, that it's all great. Well, let's take a look at the chat and see what you've asked. And I got about 15 minutes here. HBO has a tab for what's leaving. That is interesting. I appreciate that tip, Phil. Thank you. In fact, let me pull up HBO, because HBO Max, again, I'm not sponsored by anything, and HBO Max is quite good as far as the amount of material and the diversity it has. Way far better than Amazon. HBO Max has a last chance. Oh, there it is. All right. Well, let me put this on the screen, because I have HBO Max too. I've got too many services. There it is. I'm sure you're seeing something personal here from me somewhere on the screen. Dirty Harry, Goodfellas for sure. If you haven't seen Goodfellas and you're old enough to handle it, obviously a Scorsese classic. I've got a video on that one. I never did see Those Who Wish Me Dead. I'm going to watch that. It's Taylor Sheridan, and I liked his other movie, Wind River. So I will watch that for sure. What is this big bird? What is going on with that stuff? Okay. Scroll down, and Three Kings I haven't seen since that came out. I wonder about that. That's David O. Russell. What does it say about the first Gulf War? It's 3 soldiers in the first Gulf War. George Clooney. Is it Ice Cube and Mark Wahlberg? Could be good, could be terrible. I forget. Best in Show is wonderful. I love this. I just watched Waiting for Guffman, another Christopher Guest movie, and made a video on it coming out in August. So I probably will do a video on Best in Show at some point. I also love Wag the Dog. I will talk about that in the channel at some point. I love these movies about deception and fraud, especially implicating Hollywood in political deception and fraud. That's what Wag the Dog is. I forget The Lost Boys. That could be a classic 80s movie, but it could be terrible. I forget. I remember watching it on TV a long time ago. But there's a lot of older movies here kind of leaving. The Natural, go read the book instead. It's fine, but I love the book. It's real good. My Left Foot, great Daniel Day-Lewis performance. Very interesting movie. Boy, there's a lot. Yeah, there's a ton on here. I mean, the recommendation from me, subscribe to Criterion, subscribe to HBO Max, and you've got it covered. I would ditch Amazon Prime. At this point, Amazon is getting worse for me. They don't have the products that I want. It takes them a week to get to my house. They're going up in price, and I can find them for cheaper on other websites. And I'm not kidding you. I don't know if it's time to short Amazon. That would be very dangerous to do in the world of markets if you're into that. But I don't know if Amazon is losing its fastball, but at least for me, it's not working as well. And it may be time to ditch Prime altogether. But Criterion and HBO Max, and you know, with HBO Max, you're covering sort of the last 30, 40 years of movies. With Criterion, you're covering the art house and maybe some of the classic Hollywood gamut. And so, you know, you get a huge... And then you cover some of the rare gems that are probably out there on YouTube. So, yeah. THX1138 is great for sound design, and you get George Lucas's early artsy movie inspired by the French New Wave. I think everybody knows Willy Wonka. If you don't, worth watching. Malcolm X. I love Malcolm X. Even if I might disagree with the whole thing, it's really well put together. Great biopic. And I got a video on that on the channel. Oh man, there's so much here. Thank you for showing me this. This is great. Alright, I better get back over here. I better pay attention to you guys. That was great. So I'll take a look at that next month, or whenever I do the live stream. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to look at the comments here. Highly recommend starting with Days of Heaven for Malick. It's the one I started with. Yeah, so I should go through all of Malick, and I planned on it, but I've kind of gotten derailed. One, I've gone through the whole of Ingmar Bergman and done at least 12 videos. Over the next 3 or 4 months, you'll see a bunch of Bergman videos. I'm trying to figure out what to do next, and I should go through Malick. He's not as popular as I thought he would be with you all, the subscribers on this channel, but, you know, I really everyone knows I appreciate him who's watched this channel for a long time. I love Tree of Life, although it's a very notoriously difficult movie. In fact, do I love it? I appreciate it greatly. I'm still not sure I agree with it. I don't, if it's depicting heaven, it's just the goofiest, one of the goofier depictions of heaven. I just can't get my mind wrapped around that. It looks dull and annoying. But as far as, thinking about how, life, a personal, particular view of life, like the autobiography of somebody. It feels like Malik's autobiography, or part autobiography in a way, combined with this humongous universe sweep. The particular and the universal blended together. And certainly a Tree of Life. The Tree of Life is an answer, probably, to 2001: A Space Odyssey. And it's very different. Two very different ways of looking at life if you want to see those two as a contrast. So that's what I like. No one's tried to answer or has been unsuccessful in answering Kubrick very well. Maybe except Tarkovsky. There's maybe a couple of others, but I mean, Malik really is the one who has ambitions and has tried with the Tree of Life. So it's a very difficult movie. When I watched the Tree of Life in the movie theater, and this was 2010 or so, my wife was there, like 30 minutes in, people walked out. 20 minutes later, people walked out. 20 minutes later, people walked out. Very memorable movie experience, because by the end of the movie, only half the audience was still there. And I'm sure that's the way, what's going to happen still today. But, work your way up to it. It's an experience. Yeah. Is Patton forgotten? I don't know. Maybe. I just figured he was. I'm sure if I went around to the college students around here, it would be less than 50% would know his name. Do I like Arabian Nights? Well, no, I just saw that. Which one? Excuse me. Which Arabian Nights? Was that the Pasolini one? I don't think I've seen the Pasolini Arabian Nights. If that's what you're talking about. There is a Judas and the Black Messiah review on this channel. I was surprised I liked the movie and appreciate it. So there you go. Fast 9. Who's interested in that? I would watch it. I don't have a problem with it. Probably would. I need to really turn my brain off. I gotta tell you this, and I keep saying this on this channel. When I go on an airplane, which is very rare, like twice a year, I don't like to fly. I don't even have the means to travel that much. But when I fly, what I want to do, I want to watch a movie because I'm in that pressurized cabin. I feel claustrophobic. Thank God there are movies you can watch in a plane. And what I really need is a great action movie that just distracts me. Fast 9 is perfect for that. Okay, I will watch it for the stunts because you know what? The greatest stunt people in the world. Technically, I'm not just talking stunt doubles, people who can make cars crash or go thousands of miles an hour or whatever they do, are working on that movie. And we're talking behind the scene, even though it may be a stupid movie plot-wise, cliched and all that. My lone praise for that stuff is, it is very well done, usually as far as the stunts. And there's nothing wrong with that. So yes, I understand it's not that intelligent. But hey, movies aren't always for feeling intelligent. Denis Villeneuve, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Villeneuve versus Christopher Nolan. Who is better? I don't know. I do prefer Nolan. Honestly, I do. Just, I don't know. He's more my style, but whatever. I know others prefer the other guy. But it's great. To each his own. It's wonderful. Not only have I seen The Mighty Wind, I saw when before it premiered, and this was at some college newspaper association. They actually screened A Mighty Wind, which made zero sense at the time for a bunch of 18 to 20-year-olds. There's a boomer movie, if there ever was one, about folk music on a PBS station or something like that. And then Christopher Guest was there to be interviewed afterwards. You go look up at Christopher Guest's interviews. He never looks happy to be interviewed. It looks like he's annoyed by everything. So I saw The Mighty Wind and did not like it that much because it's kind of not for me, not for my generation, I felt like. I wasn't there for the folk music of the 1960s. So I don't appreciate it as much as I probably should. But it's worth seeing. I mean, I think if you like that stuff. Continuing to look at these. Yeah. The Girl with All the Gifts is a zombie movie, zombie flick, unconventional. Okay. That's good. Thanks. Yeah, the thing is, always look at the chat room here because there's a bunch of knowledgeable people that this channel sort of collected. And, you know, part of the reason you're here is for the combined knowledge, not just for me, but for the... So look at the chat room. Conjuring 3, what was Conjuring 2 and Conjuring 1? What were they? I don't even know. Honestly, I don't know. I don't keep up with the horror movies. So if you see a good horror movie that's modern, let me know. Because I have no time usually for those. My wife definitely doesn't want to watch them. Could I do a video talking about High and Low or Ron by Akira Kurosawa? Yes, I could. In fact, I will. One of these years. High and Low is a fabulous movie. I'm even shocked at how good it is. It just doesn't seem like it would be good, but it is. Ron is Kurosawa's version of King Lear. Total classic there. And, which Kurosawa movie is next? Somewhere in this stack, I have the Seven Samurai, which I must do for the channel, for the sake of the channel. That will probably be the next Kurosawa movie that you will see from this channel. But I will try to get to those other ones at some point. Oh, man. Why are you asking these terrible questions? Mizoguchi or Ozu? I probably am not saying that right, as I usually don't. Those are Japanese directors. So, to me, both are acquired tastes. I am very curious if the 18 to 30-year-old segment of this channel or the world or whatever appreciates either one. I'm very curious about that. Whenever I mention Ozu on this channel, crickets. I mean, some people are interested, but I'm not sure a lot of people know Ozu. I think Ozu is an acquired taste that I didn't like 20 years ago, but now I am wildly enthusiastic about him, especially like his last 5 to 6 movies that he made. I love his color movies, and he's the height of civilization to me in a lot of ways. What do I mean by that? I mean refined manners, interested in human richness, sociology, family relations, and he's really great with all of that material. So I'd love to know if you guys know Ozu or not. So Josh Krusel says, my favorite movie is Apocalypse Now. Yeah, have you ever read Heart of Darkness, which is worth trying? And then, honestly, I just watched Black Robe about a French Jesuit priest circa 1630 coming into Quebec, in Canada now, obviously, and then going to missionize the Indians. It's a Heart of Darkness movie, and you might appreciate or you'll understand the Apocalypse Now references in it when you watch it. And there's a lot of movies that have that sort of journey into the heart, into the heartland idea that are based on, obviously, Joseph Conrad's story, Heart of Darkness, but then Apocalypse Now being an uber famous movie, taking that very idea and running. And it's a very basic story premise, story setup that I think still can works well, because it's at once realistic, going into a heart of some area or territory, not knowing what's there. You've got this, quest going on, discovering something anew. But then it's also a metaphor for psychological and spiritual crises, right? Going to the mysterious heart of something. So I think it will always work for cinema, at least in the modern era as it is today. And there's probably some science fiction movies that do this, although I can't remember which ones. In a way, 2001: The Space Odyssey ends with the Heart of Darkness journey. It may even be that I think about that. Even the second half, going into HAL 9000's brain, and then going down to Jupiter. It may be a Heart of Darkness tale, in a way. 2001. I love these questions. You guys are so knowledgeable and great. I really appreciate that. You're asking great questions. Yeah, Kagemusha is a great Kurosawa movie. Anybody who loves Ron, anybody who loves High and Low, as we mentioned, that is surprisingly, to me, maybe even better than those movies. I really loved it. I should do a video on Kagemusha. Dertsu Utsala. That's a Kurosawa movie that is a Heart of Darkness journey. At least the first half of it is. And that's another good one, and that one is underrated. You don't see that one mentioned too often. Although I think I mentioned it in my Kurosawa video. Okay, Brian says, just started the Decalogue and was blown away by the first two. The third was good too, but I'm not sure. What was the third Decalogue movie? Is that the... What happens in... That's not the father and the daughter one. That's number 4. The third one is about the Sabbath. Yeah, that one's complicated. That one's not as easy to understand. I would keep going with the Decalogue. I've done videos on 1, 6, and 10 for sure. Anyway, the Decalogue is a 10-movie series by Kieślowski made in the late 1980s, and it's just great. It's probably among my top 10, I'm sure. Is it a movie? Is it 10 movies in an anthology? Good question. But if you didn't understand a couple of them, you will run into another 1, 2, or 3, or 4 if you're watching through them that you just, again, like numbers 1 and 2. If you like Decalogue 2, just watch the whole thing. You will love it. You'll love at least 6 or 7 of them. And then you'll be scratching your head at 3 of them. I'm sure that's the way it will work. Maybe even a better ratio than that. Yeah, The Third Man. That's the one I need to do a video on. I've covered The Third Man in my class. I've showed it here in college. That's a classic movie. I love Graham Greene, who wrote the screenplay. I've read pretty much every book by Graham Greene. I mean, I could probably just sit here and do it now if I turn my camera on, a video on The Third Man. And, of course, that's one of the great surprises in movie history, which probably is spoiled already, but it's worth pursuing as a film noir. I almost said the awesomest film noir. That's not true, but an ideal movie to show as a film noir or a vision of what noir can be. And, of course, made during that time when noir is exploding in the world and in the United States in particular. 1949. Yeah, so watch The Third Man. Put it at the top of your list. Everyone knows it's great. And if you don't even like it, you'll at least appreciate the way it's shot. I think the atmosphere, the aesthetics of it is fabulous. Yeah, I mean the music, and Carol Reed's direction, and great acting. Yeah, Ozu, Floating Weeds. Yeah, that's good. Dersu Urzala is on YouTube. Is it on YouTube in HD? That's always what I'm looking for, the high definition version. I don't want a cheap, crummy looking version. And in fact, Criterion had Dersu Urzala in, I'm not sure it was high definition, but it was crisp and good looking. And it was really nice to put on a big screen. I have access to a pretty big screen. So, yeah, that's one to watch if you can find it in a good-looking version. It's hard to find a disc version of that, though. So Criterion, I wish, would put Dersu Urzala out. What do I think about Some Like It Hot? You know, what do you think about Some Like It Hot? Some Like It Hot is up there on the classic American movie list. On almost any classic American movie list. Some of the humor in it, and you know, humor is always contextual, and it's why comedies always can, there's the threat with comedies that they always fade very quickly. Because the humor is so local, or can be local, to a situation or a time period. I feel like that one has some, 1950s humor that I just don't get. or it is not funny to me. Right? And fine. It has some delight in it. I love when characters dress up in disguise and, are frauds. It's anything with that in it I will watch. That's pretty good. So, yeah, I really appreciate it. Would I put it in the top 50 American movies ever made? Probably not. Even though you would find it in the top 50 American movies made in a bunch of American movies lists, like the American Film Institute, for example. So, Some Like It Hot is in the Criterion Channel collection. I should probably do a video on Billy Wilder. I have probably strange takes on Billy Wilder because my favorite Billy Wilder is not what's normally beloved. So anyway, we should talk about that too. Last couple questions. Last couple comments. Camera Buff is a favorite Kieslowski. Really? That's an interesting one to have as a favorite. Because you've got the Three Colors trilogy, you've got The Double Life of Veronique, and then you've got Blind Chance, which is just really good. I love Blind Chance. And so Camera Buff, yeah, I mean, it's definitely worth watching, for sure. The last one here is, anybody like Mitchell's versus the Machines? And I think my family has now watched it 4 times. I don't know why. I think my wife really likes the nuclear family aspect of the movie. She finds some truth in it. I find it hilarious and very inventive and playful. Is it the greatest animated movie ever? Probably not, but it's quite good. And, one thing that's happening in movies, I'm tempted to say it's in kids' movies, but they're really trying to uphold the nuclear family against other stuff. I don't know if they're pandering or catering to American preferences or some kind of global audience. But in Mitchell's versus Machines, you have nuclear family, wholesome, good, wacky, eccentric, held together by their eccentricities and, obviously natural bonds, versus this huge tech conspiracy which turns into the robot apocalypse. And the movie takes a giant whack at Silicon Valley, spying through technological means, smartphones and internet cookies and whatnot, which I found fascinating, and I don't know how seriously to take it. And there's more going on in the movie, but it was better than I thought. Let's put it that way. So our family's watched it several times, and you see a video on the channel. I praised it. Anyway, this has been a great live stream. You guys are amazing. Really appreciate you watching. If you have any other recommendations or comments, let us know down in the comments. But check me out at letterboxd.com, letterbox with a D. I, write a few reviews there. And there's going to be more coming from this channel, more great announcements. I have a couple announcements, but I don't want to give them out just yet. I just need to make sure they're going to happen. That's absolutely 100% sure. I'm 90% sure. But this channel is doing well, and I appreciate all of you and your support and participation. So probably see you in a month, maybe 2 months. We'll see how July goes. I'm on summer break, and I don't know, I might take a month off or something from the live stream. We'll see. Hopefully I'll be reviewing more new releases as well as just sticking with older stuff. And you can see this huge stack here. I've even had most of this stack up here since December, trying to make my way through it. And after I finished Bergman, now I can get back into it. But you got the Red Desert, you've got The Departed, Grand Illusion, The Shining, Seven Samurai, The Passenger, a couple Antonioni movies in here. So I want to get to these and make videos on them that'll be coming out this year. Yeah, thank you everybody. Really appreciate it. God bless you wherever you are in the world. Have a great month of June. Enjoy the movies.